Welcome and good evening to you all. My name is Rebecca Weiss and I'm Head of Trust and Security at Bitkom. And I had the great pleasure of organizing this conference together with Susanne and our fantastic team. It is great to see so many of you already joined us today. We're up to 850 users on our platform, so give yourselves a hand. I'm particularly happy to be standing here today in our studio, in our office, because up until a few hours ago, I didn't know whether I would be in quarantine today and would be welcoming you from basically my kitchen at home. But how great is it that that would have been possible also? So let's make the most of our virtual conference this year and make it the best experience that we can get. Connect, talk, meet new people, talk about everything that is of interest to you with regards to data protection, privacy, new technologies, and all the other topics we have in store for you today and tomorrow. And basically use digitization and the internet for what it was made for, connecting people. That brings me to the topic of our next session. For the next 2 hours, it will be all about making connections while talking about the cornerstones of digitization. We'll talk about the privacy-safe web, data protection and digital marketing, and have an additional live interview on stage before you can all join us for digital drinks and some more networking. A special thank you goes to our partner, DataGuard, who made these sessions possible. Let me now introduce you to our first speaker of our networking evening. Sharon Marshall is the director at Google's EMEA Partnership Solutions team, leading data trust. She has been with Google for nearly 10 years already, after having been with Yahoo for 11 years already. She's a true expert in advertising operations and also leads the development pillar of women at Google. Please check out Sharon's full bio on our platform because it's truly amazing and we don't have enough time to talk about what she has already done in her life, so please check it out. So, Sharon, everyone knows Google and the role you guys play for the ecosystem for digital marketing and personalized services. I'm very happy that you're here with us today and that you will tell us more about how you build a privacy-safe web. So the floor is yours, Sharon. Welcome.
Thanks, Rebecca. Can you hear and see me fine? Yeah, great. So I have to say that I'm a little bit jealous of you first, Rebecca, for being in a lovely studio, because I am actually dialing in from home. And so it's also just gone 5 p.m. here, which is a bit of a danger time for me because there is a little bit of a risk that one of my kids might come flying in, but I know that everyone loves those moments now, so just bear with me if that happens. So first of all, I'd like to say good evening to everyone here on the call today, and I'm really pleased to be here today with Bitkom and would like to thank the organisers for choosing this particularly complex area, which is so critical and crucial today. And I want to talk today about how Google upholds our mission to focus on the user, and in this case, on the rising needs and expectations of users around data privacy. But before I go into some more detail on how Google approaches this, I want to emphasize that the future of a privacy-safe web is something that we all need to be part of. And I will talk a little bit later about some of the concrete ways that everyone here can get involved. So it won't be news to anyone here that the ecosystem we all operate in is changing and has been for some time. So our users expect more. In 2019, we saw at Google on average 20 million visits per day to the Google account. And the Google account is our central hub for users to control their privacy settings across all Google products. User demand for additional privacy has led to both increased regulation and stepped up controls from browsers. The industry is then shifting to meet these higher expectations, and that impacts the ways data is collected and shared in the digital advertising industry today. These changes create new and important considerations for digital marketers and publishers. At Google, we've always made our commitment to privacy clear both to our users and to our business partners. We have company-wide privacy and security principles, which you can see hopefully, which we've published on our Safety Centre website, so you can take a look at them, and which anchor our product decisions, our customer conversations, and everything that we do. We're also committed to improving privacy across the web. In 2019, Chrome kicked off the Privacy Sandbox initiative to help the web evolve beyond decades-old technologies and practices, which have expanded now beyond their original intents to include the ability to identify and recognize users as they browse the web. And this includes our plan to end support for third-party cookies in Chrome. At the same time, though, we recognize the web is an interdependent ecosystem, and some of the same mechanisms that need to be phased out for better privacy, they currently support core business models and capabilities that help the web work for users, for publishers, for advertisers, commerce sites, and others who keep the open web robust and healthy for everyone. For Chrome, this work aligns with ongoing privacy efforts. Chrome will continue to improve user settings and tools to make it easier to manage privacy and security preferences. Chrome will also continue working to mitigate against covert tracking techniques. These are often used as workarounds to cookie-based tracking. The new work, which started in 2019 with the Privacy Sandbox, is the community effort to design, launch, and scale privacy-preserving technologies that can replace third-party cookies. In January this year, Chrome set a 2-year goal to reach this point and phase out third-party cookies in the Chrome browser. Chrome also called for collaboration from publishers, advertisers, and all other stakeholders to make sure the new solutions support the needs of the ecosystem. So, Privacy Sandbox, that refers to the principle that identifiable information should be protected as users navigate the web. Privacy Sandbox proposals are ideas for web capabilities that support this principle. And we call this our sandbox because it's a protected environment. Potentially identifiable information should not be available to external parties unless the user chooses to share it. With the Privacy Sandbox, Chrome is championing the development of new web standards for privacy. This includes the creation of new technologies that support key use cases without identifying users across sites, along with efforts to mitigate covert tracking by limiting passive data collection. When the new privacy-preserving solutions are in place and meeting the needs of the ecosystem, Chrome intends to phase out support for third-party cookies. The Privacy Sandbox has proposals that aim to address all kinds of use cases, and you can see some of them here. They include measurement, relevance, fraud detection, limited data collection, and cookie security. All of Chrome's proposals to date are listed on the Privacy Sandbox page of chromium.org, so you can go and see them there. The proposals are being refined through the public web standards process alongside privacy proposals offered by other parties. Now, this call for collaboration, it also includes other browsers and web platforms, and this really is a key point. The Chrome team is not trying to develop solutions that only work in Chrome. Cross-browser support is part of the goal. Now, that's not a guaranteed outcome. Obviously, each browser makes its own choices, but in order for it to be a possibility, there are some process principles which are well established in the web community already. The first one, the first principle really is collaboration. So any stakeholder should be able to propose solutions and provide input. And actually, with the Privacy Sandbox, we're already seeing that happen. The second one is transparency. It's really important for us that every step of the process is public. This is why we're directing feedback and questions to the public forums where they can be heard by everyone, by all participants, not just Chrome. And then thirdly, ecosystem voices really are needed in these public forums, raising use cases and sharing perspectives directly and independently. Discussions around proposals submitted by Chrome and other members of the community are happening within the open forums of the World Wide Web Consortium, or easier to say, W3C. This is how consensus is achieved for new web standards and how the best and most complete solutions are developed. So I want to give you now a very high-level overview of the process. So we start with idea incubation. Idea incubation begins when an idea for a new web feature is published. That's usually happening on GitHub, which is a collaboration platform widely used by developers. The idea may be proposed by a browser engineer, but also by anyone who sees a need and has an idea for how to solve it. If the idea attracts interest, it will be refined and incubated in W3C groups, and then that includes the opportunity for public and industry input. After the feature is refined, it moves to the prototype and testing stage. This involves testing, feedback, and improvements, still all with W3C observation and review. Every step within this stage is announced on a public mail list before coding begins, before experimentation even begins. And when engineers believe it's ready to ship or to launch, then enablement begins. And this simply means the feature is supported in Chrome for all sites and users. Scaled adoption is when the feature is mature and widely used across the web. The speed at which a feature achieves scale, that's driven by the ecosystem. So the last important point is that this open process gives all other browsers a chance to observe and participate in the development of a feature so that they can make informed choices about when and whether to support it. Today, most of the Privacy Sandbox proposals are at that early incubation stage. Now, keep in mind that proposals typically iterate over time, and they may even fork into multiple proposals. I'm sure you're all thinking to yourselves, how long does this process take? Well, the timing for each proposal actually varies depending on the complexity of those proposed solutions. So it's quite a lot to think about as you're plotting your path forward as an organisation, should you decide it would be worthwhile for your organisation to engage. First, you should decide on whether you want to be part of the group shaping the proposals, or if you prefer to wait until testing and early adoption begins. Either way, it's really important to get organised now and to know who in your organisation is responsible for being aware and informed. If you want to provide direct feedback at the idea incubation stage, first understand which use cases are most important to you, as it actually may be more helpful to follow a few proposals closely. If you want to be an early tester or just use the final solutions, perhaps you don't need to be involved at such a granular level. We will provide any significant updates in broader channels anyway. It's helpful to ensure that your partners and vendors, the people that you're working with, are participating in these ecosystem discussions and representing you at the table as well. And it's really time for all of us to get comfortable with evolution, and proposals change often, and we know that this will be a journey. And we're really looking forward to your continued engagement, your feedback, and your questions as we plan future sessions. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. The entire web ecosystem is moving forward with better solutions, and it's our collective opportunity to create this better future together. So I really hope this has been helpful and shown you a little bit about how we're thinking about making the web more private for everyone. And I'm happy now that I'm going to have a chance to discuss this a little bit more with Rebecca.
Thank you so much, Sharon.
And I'll stop sharing my screen because then I can you can see me a bit better, I think.
Does it work? Okay. So you've mentioned...
I can't hear you, Rebecca.
So then I'll wait.
I hear you now.
Okay,
I hear you now.
perfect. So, Sharon, you've mentioned ecosystem-wide changes. That sounds kind of complex. Yeah, what challenges did arise for changing the privacy features in the ecosystem?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, the ecosystem that we're all part of is evolving. And you can see that with consumers. They're much more aware and they expect more privacy and they expect more transparency from businesses that they're sharing their data with. And most importantly, they want to be able to control that. And then with regulators, we see the bar is rising in response to user expectations. You know, beyond GDPR, which I know we're all familiar with, regulations are under discussion all over the world. And then, as I've just talked about, browsers, they're stepping up privacy controls, including Chrome. And in some cases, they're taking steps that may impact marketing functionality. So there really are new considerations for everyone who operates in this space. And as you said, Rebecca, it's really highly complex and also very fast evolving in this ecosystem. But what I think it's really important to do is to emphasize that there are huge opportunities here for everyone too. I think if businesses can get their approach to privacy right and get that right now, it means that they can really start developing greater trust with their own customers, with their own users, and they can be more transparent about the value people actually get from sharing their data with them. And at Google, this has been absolutely central to our strategy from the beginning, because if we don't have the trust of our users, we simply don't have a business.
That's an interesting aspect, especially the trust of the consumers. So what are you doing exactly to help your users, to protect their privacy?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And at Google, actually, our North Star has always been our users. And one of our founding principles was, you know, if we focus on the user, then everything else will follow. And just to give you an idea of how that manifests today, we actually have over 500 employees at Google who are dedicated full time to working on privacy. And we try and involve our consumers throughout the product development process, and we're conducting research all the time to better understand what their concerns are and what they need. And one of the things we've learned is that people really actually define privacy in their own way. So, for example, if you're a family using the internet through a shared device, privacy might mean privacy from one another. If you're a small business owner who wants to start accepting credit card payments, privacy could mean keeping your customers' data secure. And if you've got teenagers like me, I've got two teenage sons who love sharing selfies, privacy could mean the ability to delete the data as soon as they want to. And the output of a lot of our research has been well-known tools like Google Account, which I talked about earlier. That's really one of the most important tools that we provide to put our users in control. So it's the one-stop shop where you can go and manage all your activity and privacy settings. And as I mentioned, we've seen many, many people go in and do just that. And in 2019, Google Account had 20 million visits every day. And then we also build other tools, which, for example, in an advertising context, can allow users more transparency into how and why ads are seen, so the user can decide if they want to see them or not. And we're constantly improving and iterating on these tools. And I mentioned we had 500 people at Google working just on privacy. And I'm really pleased to say that a lot of them are actually here in Europe, even in Germany. Because in May 2019, we launched the Google Safety Engineering Center in Munich, which some of you may be aware of. And that's our global headquarters of safety engineering and a long-term investment of resources and people who will continue to be dedicated to helping to build the internet's guardrails of the future. And the Google Safety Engineering Center, or GSEC, it's a little bit easier to say, is where we design, build and test privacy features and technologies. And it's also where we're going to keep investing. And we've over 10 years experience in building data controls for the people who use our products, not just in Germany, not just in Europe, but everywhere. So the German engineering and privacy perspective quite literally is traveling the world. And I think if you can make privacy work here in Germany or in Europe, you can make it work anywhere. And we're actually trying to find more ways to bring the advertiser and publisher perspective into the work that we're doing at GSEC. Last year, we held our first summit where we brought partners into the actual GSEC building where they could meet engineers and see demos. And obviously, really sadly, we can't do that in person at the moment. But next week, on the 7th of October, we'll be hosting the first of 3 events this year, which will allow partners like everyone listening today the opportunity to hear from our top privacy engineers who are working on these privacy enhancing technologies, and you can even ask your privacy questions in person. And we're having 3 events, and over those events, 3 events in October and November, what we'll be doing is exploring the role privacy plays in the economic recovery, the future of privacy safe advertising, and also what responsible innovation for the future looks like. And I would love to invite everyone listening here today, if they want to attend that first event next week, the first of our GSEC partner series. And I think, Rebecca, you have kindly agreed that if people are interested, they can contact you after the session and you'll pass on their details to us so we can make sure they get an invite.
That's exactly right, because I think it's a great opportunity, to be honest, because we have so many questions coming in and we sadly won't have enough time to address all of them today. And maybe your event will give users that are here today and joining us on our platform today to join you next week or later and discuss the questions in depth with you directly.
Yeah, that would be great.
And I also found the notion you mentioned that privacy could mean something different for different user groups. I think that is the most important thing to acknowledge, basically. I'll keep that in mind. I have one other question, because in your presentation, it got really obvious how important personalized services are for the ecosystem, for the environment. And you've been doing it for, on such a great scale and for such a long time already that I can't just not ask you, what advice would you offer organizations who want to offer personalized services without breaching user privacy and data protection rules?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, we really do need to remember that personalization is something that does drive value for users. People do actually prefer personalization or personalized experiences in many occasions because they are more relevant and helpful. But it does need to be done in a way that maintains transparency, choice, and that people can control. And I can't give any advice as such, but I think what is helpful to think about is some of the questions that we may have found it helpful in the past to ask ourselves. And I think the first one really is about the value exchange and thinking about, what value are you providing for your customers or for your users, and how are you explaining that to them? Because if you can explain to them how sharing their data will drive tangible value to them, I think it's really important to explain that so that they're aware, and then it's easier for them to know what's happening. So that is part of the transparency. And think about, are you giving people control over what data they share? Are you giving them adequate control? Are they able to control it if they wish? Are they able to just do that quite easily? They don't have to search too hard to do that. That's really important. And then think about your own accountability for data sharing. Are you sharing data with third parties, and are you accountable for everyone in that train? So I think it's really helpful to think about the people that you're working with, and if you trust them or if they share similar principles around privacy to you. And then one thing I'll just leave you with, and again, Rebecca, hopefully I'll be able to send you a link that you can send out to your members, but we've partnered with BCG on a study actually around responsible marketing with first-party data. And so as we're sort of looking at the deprecation of third-party cookies, then it's really a good thing to think about now around how are you building trust and building first-party data, So we have a study on that which provides additional insights and recommendations for companies that we did with BCG, and that's publicly available online. But hopefully, Rebecca, if we send you the link afterwards, you can also send that out.
I will, Sharon, thank you. And thank you so much for your insights and your time this evening, or is it morning at your place, right? So
no, I'm in London, so you're just...
okay, it's also in the evening.
Only an hour ahead of me.
Fabulous. Okay, so thank you again, Sharon, for your time. I hope we'll stay in touch, and of course I'll forward every user to you if they want to connect with you at your event.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. So, and for our next session, I'm really not sure where to start because I'm here to introduce our next speaker, and yeah, there's just so many interesting things in her bio. It's 18 years of experience in law firm, chairwoman of the Spanish Privacy Professional Association, member of the Confederation of European Data Protection Organizations, and member of the Spanish Royal Academy of Jurisprudence and Legislation. Who hasn't been there? Former European Privacy Officer lead of Pfizer, and now she's EMEA Privacy Policy Director at Facebook. She's a true privacy and data protection law professional, and please check out her amazing bio on our platform, because it would take too long to just read it out here in full. So I'd like to introduce you now to Cecilia Alvarez-Rigorias, who agreed to do an on-stage interview with me tonight. Welcome, Cecilia.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, and thank you very much, Bitkom, for inviting me to share my experience in this digital world, and probably as a citizen, as all of you as a European citizen, suffering firsthand, I think, the crisis from an individual and also from a business viewpoint.
Thanks for taking the time. Before we'll dive right into our topic of digital marketing and data protection, let's start with a broader view on the topic itself. So how would you describe the importance of digital marketing for businesses nowadays, and how has it changed the way that companies address their users?
Thank you very much, Rebecca, for this question. I think that traditionally, we will be looking at how digital businesses have been changing our lives and what has been meaning also for privacy, but for the economy and for privacy, two things that should not be at odds. However, it is true that the COVID has changed dramatically how we're using technology, and this goes as well with respect to the digital marketing. And just to have a look at how this conference is taking place, as many others, right? This is all fully digital, as opposed to our normal physical meetings that I actually still miss. But it is true that the technology isn't all new, and the crisis has maybe serve to make that internet and the benefits, including the digital marketing, has become more deeply woven into the fabric of the society and also in our global economy. I would like to use as a support a presentation in which I have in particular certain figures with respect to the impact of COVID with respect to how also this is something very much linked to digital marketing and why the technology has been so useful, in particular for small and medium enterprises. But first, let's try to have a step back and have a look at the full picture. The reality is that we are dealing with probably several crises at once. We have a public health emergency, we have a global economic crisis, and a time of anxiety, of unrest, and uncertainty. It's all been especially catastrophic from a business point of view for small businesses. And we have been partnering with the World Bank and the OECD to survey more than 25,000 small businesses leaders in more than 50 countries. And the results we can see here in these slides are as sobering as you would expect. So in May, we found that 26% of small businesses have closed because of the pandemic, with more than half shuttering in some countries. And by July, even as businesses began opening up in most of our countries, 33% reported that they had reduced their workforce. And the data is even worse when we think of female and minority-owned businesses, unfortunately. If we move to the next slide that I have prepared, also to show this big picture, thinking of the impact of the economy. We see that even before the COVID crisis, especially the small and medium-sized enterprises use Facebook and digital marketing to reach their customers. Historically, marketing and advertising is something that was used to be quite expensive and therefore just affordable for big companies. And this has changed, and this has changed with the internet, and this has changed with digital marketing, and a kind of, if I may use this expression, democratization of advertisement that has taken place. And if we see how much Facebook is used, we are seeing that it's more than 180 million businesses every month to reach the customers. And most of them are small and medium enterprises. During the COVID shock, digital tools kept many businesses standing, and we think they will be essential also for the recovery. As there are small business owners who are finding more growth online, and of course, I have been provided for preparing this presentation with German examples, because I think there is nothing better than to have things that are close, let's say, to your cities or to something that is close, definitely to your heart as well, and to your economy, which is so important for all of us. And forgive me, my pronunciation in German is not necessarily the best one, but I will do my best with this example that I found that is very illustrative. So we have Markus Nindorf, a fourth-generation pharmacy from Lübeck, and he has been running from Lowen, a pharmacy in Lübeck in northern Germany since 1992, and where he has been developing and selling natural remedies passed down through his family for generations. After building out his online capabilities this year, and in particular during the pandemic, he is now reaching customers from beyond the old and beautiful town of Lübeck. And these online efforts are outperforming his physical shop. It could be a very small example, but I think our life is plenty of full examples. And this is at the end of the day how we build society and how we build economy as well. We have another study from the Copenhagen Economics that was released early this year. It is true prior to COVID, but they surveyed businesses in 15 countries across the EU. And the survey found that Facebook apps help businesses contribute over than an estimated 208 billion euros to the economy in Europe, and helped them generate over 98 million euros in exports last year. So I think that we are a big company, but we are one company among others, let's say in the digital arena. But at least with these figures, probably we can get somehow the idea of the importance of digital marketing for the economy. And especially in times where, like when we have COVID, we have more difficulties, let's say, in continuing doing our businesses, and our, not only businesses, but our social, also interactions physically. And I will stop here before we move here, because I know that you wanted me to cover also COVID in particular, right, Rebecca?
Yeah, that's true.
So part of this, I use it in my thinking that because we are living so deeply, all of us, COVID, that's why I wanted, let's say, to give the economics also with the background that we actually have, in which we can see how the digital tools are helping us as well from the economic side. But I definitely want also to touch upon the social side, our side when we stay connected with our friends and our loved ones. And definitely digital tools and Facebook is part of this ecosystem. Doesn't just help the economy to survive the shutdown of many physical businesses and to recover hopefully from COVID, but also every individual is relied on digital tools to stay in contact with their friends and loved ones. Facebook is not the only one, but definitely is one of these examples. And I can at least also show all the things that goes also deeply to my heart with respect to how we are able now to see in live streaming maybe cultural performances. And this is also something that is happening through social media and Facebook in particular. As many cultural institutions were closed or even closed until today, they are moved their events and exhibitions online. And we have supported in particular something in Germany that I am very happy actually and proud to share with you, which is United We Stream, which is an initiative of various cultural institutions from Berlin, which became a global initiative during the crisis. And this permitted to be broadcasted on Facebook from Berlin, Amsterdam to Chicago and many other cities. United We Stream used live streaming on Facebook to reach the audience during lockdown, but not only for this, but also to raise funds for the many affected cultural institutions. And more importantly, or at least as important, they gave people a sense of community when they needed to stay at home. And definitely this is something that I have when I am uh, able to watch this kind of live streaming. I love ballet in particular, so to be able to see this kind of see of the opera in Paris or in Moscow or in London or in New York, this is something that, well, it provides me to travel without traveling, let's say, but to be close to my interest. Uh, Moving more and down into other elements that we have been doing during the COVID time and that is close to our hopefully well-being as individuals, is that we have launched the COVID-19 Information Center to provide place for people to get the latest news and information as well as resources and tips to stay healthy and support their family and community. And this has been launched in more than 180 countries. We have launched also community help, a place for people to request or to offer help for neighbors, such as volunteering to deliver groceries, which is actually something that I've done with some of my neighbors, in particular the elder ones, signing up to be a blood donor or donating to a local food pantry or fundraiser. Since 2020, people have been able to raise over than 100 million for COVID-related fundraisers on Facebook and Instagram. And if we see the donations, the individual donations, they are less than $25, or which is quite equivalent to our euro currency. So that it seems again that things that individuals are doing one by one, at the end of the day, is the way in which we are able to work together towards the same kind of goals. And to finish probably this panoramic of COVID-specific related work or efforts, as part of a specific a program that is named Data for Good at Facebook, they have launched new tools to support the work of researchers and nonprofits. When I was preparing the presentation, one of my colleagues said, well, but what is this? We cannot really see this. It's like a kind of fireworks. I say, well, it looks like fireworks, but actually this is a map. This is a disease map in order to see the mobility of the people and in order to see the spread of the disease. And it's in order to show that when we are saying that this is based on anonymous data, so the things that we're releasing is really anonymous and aggregate, I think that this picture really shows that it is impossible to know what is happening on an individual basis. We have been making data sets of mobility trends available to nearly 350 nonprofits and universities around the world, and working side by side with the public sector to combat the outbreaks of COVID. And these partners have established the COVID-19 Mobility Data Network, a global coalition to provide real-time insights from our Data for Good tools. We have also launched types of disease prevention maps to help inform disease forecasting efforts and protective measures. There are more measures, and some of them are coming because of initiatives of users, initiatives of employees that are making us thinking as to whether we may develop other things. So I think that sometimes Facebook is very much criticized for many things. I think that during COVID, there are also many aspects that we can be happy that a company like this one has been able to invest and put the best of their employees and engineers to think about how we may contribute to something that we are not yet out of it.
I think I read somewhere recently that you're reaching 410 users with Facebook in Europe alone. So I think it's great that you're using your reach to help us through the pandemics. So let's circle back a bit to the digital marketing topic of our session, because digital marketing is often, of course, linked to personalized ads and personalized services. And that, of course, is always linked with data protection. How has data protection, in your view, changed the digital marketing business as a whole, and especially since the GDPR enters into force 2018?
Sure. And actually, this is even more. So I have been able, let's say, to prepare this with others with respect to the figures of how digital marketing is so important for our economy and for the recovery, and also with respect to COVID, in which some of these reports have been actually our team has been closely working on. But definitely, GDPR is I would say my area. Of course, there are many people in Facebook that are working on this, but I landed, let's say, in Facebook when the first efforts of GDPR were already, let's say, there. But I have been seeing that this is an evolving area, which is actually what I think the GDPR is looking for, in the sense that we are able to learn, to iterate, and to evolve, and to get adapted. So I don't think, since in my former life, in the sense of before Facebook, I was actually in charge of implementing the GDPR, and this is something that happened in Facebook before I joined. I knew that there were many things that were not ending on 2018, but that we will be testing the investment that we have made in certain tools or in others, and that we will be surprised to see that certain things maybe were not as we forecasted, and others is just that we learn by doing as well. And this company is extremely innovative, and also innovative in privacy, and sometimes there are errors, and we need definitely to learn from the errors, and sometimes there are also successes in the way certain things have been approached. So I would like to maybe, if you enable me, to share with you a kind of my journey as well at Facebook with respect to a certain number of things that in which we can see how GDPR has impacted and continues to impact the way in which the platform delivers privacy tool or delivers GDPR elements, at least those that we can see from the outside, because there are many others, as in any other company, that there is all of this infrastructure and governance that we do not see as users, we do not see as businesses. So one of the things that I think is important, at least for the kind of service that we provide from a GDPR viewpoint, is the kind of service that we have. And the service that we offer, and the service that is contracted for, is a personalized service in which we have the organic content or the non-paid content that is working in a symbiotic manner with the paid content, which is something that does not happen in other areas of digital marketing, in which we have, let's say, the core service and the ancillary things, and advertising could be an ancillary thing. This is not what happened at Facebook. You have a personalized experience in both elements that are not separated. I don't know how many of the persons who are in the audience are current or old users of Facebook, or as the case may be Instagram, or maybe they're the younger generation that seems to be also particularly keen to follow in Instagram. But if you see how the service is delivered, you see that the newsfeed is something in which you have the paid content and the non-paid content working together as part of the personalized experience. Actually, this is something that, as a user, I sometimes follow much more the newspapers through Facebook than as I did in the past, because it permits me, let's say, to follow what is happening with my friends, what is happening in the Opera of Paris, and what is happening with respect to the news that are going to affect me in my home country, or in my region, in Europe, or elsewhere. Something that has an impact with respect to the legal basis, because the service is a personalized experience. It's not that I do marketing or I enable the marketing from others as something that is ancillary. But let's continue, let's say, in our journey from our personalized service in order to see how privacy information and how privacy controls are delivered. And there are many paths. One of them is the traditional one, so the privacy policy. Everybody has a privacy policy, and it seems that no one reads it, or at least this is what everybody says, or what the service says. And probably this is true, but this doesn't mean that we should not have a privacy policy, and that we should not try to invest in order to make this more attractive, in order to make this in different layers, in order that users of very different kind of privacy interest may go there, in order maybe to have a highlight, or to have more in-depth information. And the way in which the privacy policy has been layered and has been using also specific colors, and has been also differentiated with respect to very small pieces of it, in order that you do not see, let's say, like 7 pages of a lengthy text that nobody is even interested in start reading. So this is one part, but the other part, of which is more important, is that there are many parts of the service that enables you to go to a centralized place in which you will find all the information that is relevant from a privacy viewpoint. You also have a help center that is specifically providing information on topics that we have been seeing, either because the data protection authorities have been telling us that this was particularly important, or because the users, or because we are seeing in the service that we do that this is information that could be particularly important for them, which is the information on how ads work. But I think the thing that makes me thinking that is even more important is the education in context. So not only having a place in which maybe you have, but information that comes at the right moment when you need it. And one of these is this, why I'm seeing this ad, or why I'm seeing this post, in which you have information that try to explain you how the algorithm works. So what are the actions or the elements, even if this is explained in the privacy policy, there is nothing that will probably explain better that when you see a post, or when you see a post that is organic, or when you see a post that is ads, to understand what this ad is actually delivered to you. Why this is connected to your behavior, in the sense that you like something, or you share something, or you comment on something. Because what is this personalized experience that we were talking before is a personalized experience trying to match your interests. And maybe we could be right or wrong, or maybe I love dogs, but I do not want to see things about abuse of animals because it renders me sad. It's not that I'm not interested. Probably I am, but it's the kind of thing I do not want to see. And they are actionable controls. So it's not only the information that is provided in context, but you can also have a control in order that a certain kind of topics or interest that seems to be matching with you wrongly, or hopefully not by error, but in any case that you can actually control your privacy, in the sense of controlling what are the kind of things that you are going to receive. And you have an ads preferences tool that enables you to do this kind of controls. Here you will see just in order for you to see how it looks like when you have a specific post, in this case, or just the market share a video, which is something coming from a small shop. What you can be doing, you see that what I'm seeing this out is one of them, and there it indicates that you're receiving this because the advertiser indicated that you have visited the website, that they are trying to reach people that are interested in shopping and food. So if these are interests that are coming from your actions in Facebook, this is something that will be relevant. Jasper Market Source is trying to reach you because they are looking for people who are, in this case, in the United States, and it could be in whatever other country. And they are also trying to reach females age 18 and older. And these are the target criteria that enables advertising without us giving them your data to reach an audience. And that's why this is so important for what we were talking before with respect to the SMEs, in order that they define the kind of audience they would like to reach. And according to the preferences that we have been identifying of the user, we can make the relevant match. Here you can see this ad preferences, and in particular the interest categories. That is something that I am very keen for you to see how it works. So here, the interest that the algorithm has shown about the specific user is physical fitness, dogs, video games, interior design, contemporary art. If some of this is not that it is true or not, but as long as you do not want to receive ads on interior design, then you can come here and remove. This does not mean that ever you're not going to receive an interior design ads, but not because of your interest. It could be that interior design is going to say, I want to reach females older than 18 years old who live in Spain, period. And well, I could be rich, but it will not be because of my interest, but definitely others that will be targeting. Definitely my interest in interior design, all of this will actually not reach me because I have actionated of controls. There is another kind of control, which is more related to political ads that are particularly controversial, and in particular in times of elections in any country. And this is something that has been developed in order to provide more transparency of who is behind the political ads and how much money is spent on this. And this is something that can be accessed by users and no users, or Facebook or Instagram, and it takes 7 years, if I am not mistaken. Another element that is the direct impact of GDPR here, and thinking and innovative thinking of how to give more controls, because GDPR is about to have more transparency, but to have also more this kind of empowerment, right, of the citizens. And we have a very different views on how we approach privacy when we are young than when we are, well, I wouldn't say super old, but definitely I'm not that young. And I think I have changed a bit the way in which I choose my privacy settings as well. And I can imagine that with respect to my children, definitely this is also something that is very different from the way in which I control my privacy. Here we have another kind of control, which is your off-Facebook activity. So this is information that is coming when we are using business tools that apps or websites are using, and they're business tools that have been designed by Facebook, but the decision to incorporate them in the websites or in the apps is on the relevant website or app. And with the relevant legal basis, this information is coming to us. In order for us to use this for advertising, we ask for an explicit consent. This is one control, but the other control is this one. Even if you have consented to ads, you can come here afterwards and actually have this deleted. So to have like a kind of cut of the link between your account and the information that is coming from this third-party site. So from something that is outside of Facebook. Another element that was specifically built for GDPR and that has been improving constantly. So this is not something that happened in 2019 and it stopped. This is something that every X time there is a review in order to see how we can make this easier as well. Traditionally, the exercise of the rights of access and definitely the right of portability, which is even more novel under the GDPR, has been made through the companies by telling them, please write your request to this email or sometimes a web form. But there are very few companies that have been able, and for very different reasons. Sometimes the context also of the business does not necessarily enable to make information that is meaningful this way. But when we have this possibility, definitely this is something I was particularly impressed to see how you can self-service your access and portability right by coming here and seeing in the different categories the kind of information that actually you have been posting, you have been providing to Facebook, and therefore that you can see this and therefore exercise your rights without waiting, without sending, and with an information which is dynamic, because people are putting posts all the time, at least the active users. So it will be impossible if we answer you with a PDF with all the things that are in the platform that are going to change in the following probably 30 minutes. So that this is something that permits the self-service capability of exercising two very nuclear rights under the GDPR in a dynamic manner, by elements that are already differentiated, and for you to have definitely not only more information, more control, which is the kind of things that you can do in the download your information, in which this information by the relevant category, you may download it in two different kind of formats. I know that we are very, very close to at least the expected final moment for this presentation, so I will try to go a bit quicker. But just for you to know that this is another control that has been built more recently, but also with the GDPR lens in mind, which is this bulk control, in order that you may able to filter, to sort out and find what you are looking for, like posts with specific people or from a specific date range, and also to delete it if this is something that you would like to do. And finally, and this is, I promise, my last slide, is with respect to the Facebook developer tools. As I mentioned before, there is information that is obtained and sent by a website or apps when they are using, they decide to use our business tools that contain these pixels or SDKs, which enables, let's say, to work kind of cookies to manage to send this information to us in order to deliver statistics to them, and to inform, as the case may be, our safety and integrity policies, and with the explicit consent of the users, our ads as well, if this is something that they would like also for us to use this for more accuracy, let's say, of algorithm in order to match the interest and deliver the personalized experience, which at the end of the day is what we offer and what is contracted for. And therefore we close, hopefully, the loop with how I started, I think, my journey with respect to, I think, different elements that have been quite illustrative of how GDPR has had such a great impact and continues to have in how the platform delivers privacy controls.
Thank you, Cecilia. I think it became obvious that the GDPR changed your platform and changed your services. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, and I had further questions, and I guess the audience had questions as well. It would be great if we can maybe forward you the questions of our audience and you can answer them later on. We can put the answers on our platform or on our website, I don't know. I think we'll find a way, but I'd like to include the audience in this as well to really get into an exchange of your views and the ecosystem and how to enable every user of the ecosystem and of your platform. That would be awesome.
I think that this is a very good idea, so very happy to take care of this, and also to encourage the audience if they have suggestions. I cannot, of course, promise that any suggestions will be implemented, but at least that they will be channeled in order to be considered, definitely yes. So thank you very much for your time, and for us Europeans to also continue being united, because we have a lot of in front of us for this winter.
Thank you, Cecilia. Have a great evening.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.